Hello internet friends, in this video I'm going to talk you through the basics of the space game in Star Wars Galaxies Legends. The space portion of Star Wars Galaxies, called Jump To Lightspeed, is a game in itself with its own mechanics, progression system and endgame content. The easiest way to get started is to follow the new player tutorial on Tansari Point Station. Following the main quest line for Han Solo will eventually lead you to Analdra's lieutenant. Tell her you want to make some money and you'll get the option to check out Hangar Bay 1. Tell her you're new to piloting and she'll send you to see Serisu, who'll give you a starter ship with a series of missions. Click on the terminal nearby to launch into space. On your inaugural flight, a pop-up window will appear that will help you get to grips with the basic of space flight. I'm not going to repeat that here. What I am going to do is focus on some of the things that are really important that are not covered here. Firstly, mouse sensitivity. This is shared between the ground and the space game, and in my experience, whatever you have your sensitivity set to for the ground will make space very difficult. Either it will be too sensitive or not sensitive enough. You have a couple of options to address this. Buy a mouse capable of toggling between different sensitivity settings, DPI settings. You could use a controller. You could also use a flight stick. Unfortunately, there's no other way around this that I've found because this sensitivity is shared between ground and space. The next thing that is an important setting is the cursor dead zone. This decides how much leeway you have between moving your mouse and your ship responding. If you make the dead zone too small, your ship will react to the slightest twitch. Too large a dead zone and you won't be able to react fast enough to be effective in dogfights. You've got to play around with this dead zone until you find a setting that feels right. Dead zone is also shared between ground and space, so you're going to have to find a setting that kind of works for both, otherwise you'll be adjusting this every time you launch into space. The next thing is keybinds. Now there are a ton of these to play around with and I encourage you to do so. I'm going to point out the ones that I think are the most important that will give you a fighting chance in combat, and those are target closest enemy, target last enemy that shot player, and target next enemy's starship or space station, excuse me. These three commands will allow you to prioritize targets by proximity, whether they're shooting at you, and to cycle through all enemies in range. Another really useful one for when you are panicking, you're under attack and you need to target the thing that is directly in front of you, underneath your targeting reticule. Remember this or bind it to something, target under reticule, then you can target whatever happens to be in front of you. Okay, so there's a lot to take in on the heads-up display, isn't there? I'm going to talk through the most important things, glossing over some of the stuff that's not so important early on. So this blue half circle on the left of your targeting reticule is your speed. As you decelerate, it will go down, and accelerate, it will go up. On the right, the half circle is your capacitor power. That will drain as you fire your weapons. You'll have to wait for it to recharge. That's how you keep track of that. At the bottom is your radar. We'll come back to the radar, but for right now we want to talk about these half circles to the top and to the bottom that are half filled here with blue. You can see those are my shields, so my forward shields and my rear shields. You can see they're about 40% full at the moment. The inner two circles are my armor. This is not filled in for me. They'll probably be red for you if you have armor plugged into your ship. They will drain as your shields go down and then your armor starts to take hits. Mine aren't filled in because I don't have any armor on my A-wing. In the top right you can see a display of the thing you're currently targeting. As you can see here, I'm targeting the Hutt bomber. So we get a little readout of their shields, armor, systems and chassis. Important to watch those numbers as you do damage, see how effective you're being in combat. You have your abilities at the very top. Just like the ground game, you have a hotbar and you can plug abilities into that. You'll unlock abilities as you go up in levels, and also you get an astromech droid who has abilities, or a flight computer that has abilities that you can put up here. Not so important early on, but you'll be using those more and more as you go up in levels. On the very right here, there's a series of buttons. You can check the status of your equipment. If anything goes offline, you'll get an indication that will pop out from the side of one of these things. Watch out for those pop-ups. The only other thing to mention are waypoints. Waypoints work very much like they do in the ground game. You can set waypoints in space, and wherever you happen to put your waypoints, they will appear on the HUD. Once you have an enemy targeted and you're in range, a secondary reticule will appear which predicts where you need to shoot. This is basically your computer leading the target for you. Generally, you want to maneuver behind and keep the enemy in your sights, which will mean decelerating once you're in attack range. If you're constantly flying at top speed, you won't be able to turn fast enough and will overshoot the enemy. I find 75% throttle is about right for dogfights, but this will vary with the type of enemy. I'm going a bit slow here because these are low level enemies and I'm a high level starship. Continuing the topic of keeping an eye on your enemy, you'll need to be looking at your radar. So let's go through that. The center circle is what you can see directly ahead of your ship. Once targets on the radar move into the outer circle, they are either to your left, right, above or below. On the edge of the radar, they're behind you. In a dogfight, this can be hard to take in, but one thing that will help is to keep an eye on your HUD when you have an enemy targeted. And you can see this kind of diamond that tracks the enemy. So you can kind of turn towards that on your HUD, try and turn towards that targeted enemy, follow it as it floats around the HUD and get back on track. Worth mentioning at this stage that I'm using ILM, which is a graphical mod for Star Wars Galaxies, so some of these icons and the way things are arranged might look slightly different in your version of the game, but the principles are all the same, things just look different, and I can't actually remember how things look without ILM now, so be mindful of that if things are slightly different. Beyond dogfighting, you also need to know how to navigate between the various sectors. You have two maps for this, the hyperspace map, which is in your ship's key map options, key map, ship, and then come down to hyperspace map. Also the space zone map, which is not under ship, it's under UI, just for the sake of common sense. I don't know. They really make it simple, don't they? You're going to need to remember those two things or bind them. The hyperspace map does exactly what it sounds like, allowing you to jump between star systems. I'll show you that now. There we go. Click on one of those and click hyperspace. The space zone map is very useful when you're navigating within a sector. The easiest way to do that is to look at this right hand menu here, the drop down, and click on these things. So we want to go back to Tatooine Space Station. The easiest way is to click on the space station and select Autopilot 2 and it'll take us there automatically. But with the map you can also have a good look around the sector for where things are. This is good for getting a sense of the layout of a sector. Knowing how to use this space map is really useful sometimes. You can pan and zoom and do all that stuff. Okay, so we've gone over the basics. Now we're going to navigate to the sector starbase. Most sector starbases are named something obvious, Tatooine Starbase in this case, and fly within range to activate the traffic control. You can bind at this stage, which I will show you, a ship-to-ship comlink, so you can start it before you get within range. Let me just show you how to do that. So we're in key map again. This time it's all, and we're going to go down to ship-to-ship comlink. There it is, and we'll activate that now and tell them you want to land on the planet. Once planetside, you're going to choose one of the factions to join, either Imperial, Rebel or Neutral. But each faction also has 3 squadrons that you can choose to join, which are slightly different. They have different missions, different difficulties as well. So the Rebels are Archon's Havoc Squadron, which is considered the easiest Rebel squadron, Crimson Phoenix Squadron, which is medium difficulty, Vortex Squadron is considered to be the hardest. For the Imperials, the Imperial Inquisition Squadron is considered to be the easiest, then Black Epsilon is medium, and Storm Squadron is the hardest. When it comes to the neutral or freelance pilots, they have a choice of joining Corsac on Corellia, the RSF Squadron, or the Smugglers Alliance. I'm not sure if difficulty varies between those, the wiki doesn't say so. Where to find these squadron leaders is all contained within the wiki, so I'm going to put a link to that in the description of the video, where to find these trainers to start your piloting career. Once you've signed up with your chosen squadron, you're going to be running missions for these guys, and they'll send you to various people within the squadron across the galaxy. The flow of the missions is such that you have a couple of missions in each tier, and then to make up the XP difference, you'll generally be running duty missions, and you'll have a choice of these. You kind of repeat them until you have enough XP for the next tier and the next tier and so on. In my experience, the best duty missions are the ones that just ask you to destroy enemies. Escort missions are just really frustrating to me, but that's anecdotal, it's up to you. As you're fighting in space and you're completing missions, you'll be getting components for your starship, and the components are how you get better. Simply unlocking the next tier of starship doesn't make you automatically better. My A-Wing, for instance, that I've been using in this video, could be as rubbish as the starter ship unless I upgrade the components, and those higher tier components are unlocked as you go up the tiers in your profession. So you're looking for these certifications. Basically, you get certified in equipment, and then you plug that into the starship. Buying new starships and equipment is very easy on the bazaar or from shipwrights across the galaxy. On the bazaar, they are under ship components. Make sure when you're looking that you're buying equipment that you're certified for. Every item will have a ship certification level. Once you unlock a new ship type, you want to come to ship chassis, and any that are available will be listed here. Generally, they're not on the bazaar in Mos Eisley. You'll have to go to people's personal vendors to get them. Then once you've got a chassis deed, you'll be coming to this guy, the Starship Chassis Broker. He'll assemble a ship chassis for you, then you'll be able to use it with the Starship Terminal right here. So use, this is how we launch into space from most starports. As you can see, we can travel between planets, launch ship, or manage the ship here. And plug in all that gear we've been getting from loot drops, mission rewards, stuff we've bought. So I could unload my reactor here. That's no good. I can't travel around anymore. Basically, that's how you improve your ship, by becoming certified for better and better equipment that you then plug into your ship chassis. Generally speaking, higher tier ships will have more mass available for you to put those more advanced components into them. So there is definitely a point in getting the higher tier ships because you have more room to maneuver in terms of what you can put in them. More mass means more space for more components. So there is a lot more to talk about with space, reactor energy drain, capacity, power, how to defeat the final boss to get your master certification, Nova Orion Station. But this video was intended to be the basics to get you started. So I hope it's helped in that regard. Let me know in the comments. I've been Napyet, and I'll see you next time. Bye.